In 2021, the NFL and its broadcasting partners will earn approximately $465 million from Super Bowl ad revenue, which is about $5.5 million for one 30-second ad. Despite the massive price tag, I believe a Super Bowl ad is actually worth much more under the right circumstances. Let me explain why. Measuring the value of an advertisement can be tricky, especially if it's not a direct response campaign that is driving sales and can be measured based on ROAS, or return on ad spend. Let's start by comparing the cost against other television ads. According to Statista, the average television advertiser pays $36.19 for every 1,000 broadcast impressions for a 30-second commercial. This is called the CPM. It stands for cost per milli, and it measures what exposure to 1,000 television viewers is worth, according to the broadcaster that's selling the ad inventory. Last year's Super Bowl had 102.1 million viewers, so if we assume that this year's game will achieve the same viewership, then we can calculate the CPM for a Super Bowl ad, which works out to $53.87, or 49% more expensive than a normal TV ad. So doesn't this mean that Super Bowl ads are overpriced? Well, let's unpack this a little further. Impressions by themselves don't really mean much. In fact, impressions aren't even an accurate measure of how many people actually saw the ad, let alone remember seeing it. Here's why. Studies have found that the average person sees between 6,000 and 10,000 ads per day. Think about how many ads you remember seeing today. Probably very few, if any of them, I imagine. Therefore, the rate at which people recall seeing any given ad is very low, especially if they're exposed to it very infrequently. If we estimate that 10% of people recall viewing a typical TV commercial, which is a complete guess, but probably not too unreasonable, that means the average cost per recall is 36 cents. A poll by Eisner Communications found that 14% of Super Bowl viewers tuned in primarily to watch the ads. Another study suggests that 61% of Super Bowl viewers pay more attention to the ads than normal TV ads. Based on this information, we can assume that the rate of ad recall for a Super Bowl ad is higher than normal TV, probably substantially so. This means that in order for a Super Bowl ad to achieve a less expensive cost per recall than normal broadcast television, it needs a recall rate of 15.4%, or just 5.4% higher than normal TV. This is already close to the 14% of people who tune in just to watch Super Bowl ads, and doesn't consider the other 86% who are just there to watch the game. Based on this basic math, it's already starting to make sense why Super Bowl ads have the potential to be an underpriced means of attention when compared against the alternative. But so what? Does any of this matter if the ads don't actually generate revenue for these advertisers? It's true. There's a lot of debate around the efficacy of brand awareness advertising in general, but there are some interesting figures we can look at. Here's a graph that shows the search frequency of the term Budweiser over the last 10 years. Budweiser has aired 135 ads in all 54 Super Bowls and has reportedly spent more than $450 million doing it. If we isolate the 10 highest peaks during this period, all 10 of them are in February, when their Super Bowl ads are aired. But maybe there's something else going on here. Maybe February happens to be a popular month in general for beer. Well, if we look at the search trend for the term beer, we see that it peaks in July and August, with February being among the lowest months. There also appears to be no correlation between two of Budweiser's competitors, Heineken and Coors Light. This means that not only are consumers being passively exposed to Budweiser's Super Bowl ads, but they're actually taking action by performing a web search of the company, which further supports the idea that Super Bowl ads actually do increase brand awareness. I personally believe this increased brand awareness could result in increased sales simply because Budweiser is more prominent in consumers' minds when they're at a liquor store about to select a brand to buy. As long as Budweiser is part of the decision-making process, there's a chance a customer will buy it. But what do the sales look like? Well, unfortunately, a public company like Budweiser doesn't share sales figures on a monthly basis. We can take a look at their quarterly reports, which combine sales figures from January, February, and March, but that doesn't necessarily give us a clear picture of the impact an ad in February made. To further complicate things, Budweiser is owned and traded under the Anheuser-Busch parent company, which owns more than 32 breweries, including Busch, Michelob, Bud Light, Corona, and Stella Artois, to name a few. So the quarterly sales figures aren't even a true representation of Budweiser itself. Also, Anheuser-Busch earns more than $50 billion in revenue per year, which means that even if a $5.5 million Super Bowl ad achieved a 10x ROI, or $55 million in sales, it would only increase the company's revenue by 0.1%, which probably wouldn't be easy to spot looking at a revenue graph. Another way to measure would be to look at the fluctuations in a company's stock price. A company's market capitalization, which is the stock price multiplied by the number of outstanding shares, is a pretty fair estimation of a company's value because the stock price is a representation of investors' expectations of a company's future cash flows. In other words, how much money they think it will make in the future. When something happens that makes investors feel like the expected future cash flows will increase, like a Super Bowl ad, they will buy stock accordingly, increasing the company's market capitalization. This provides us with a relatively fair estimation of how much value a Super Bowl ad created at that particular point in time. Several studies have examined the stock price fluctuations of Super Bowl advertisers, but found no conclusive evidence that buying a Super Bowl ad automatically results in an increased stock value. To build off this, more studies were conducted to assess the likability of Super Bowl ads to see if there was a pattern. In other words, to see if ads that people liked were more likely to result in increased stock value. Again, no correlation was discovered. This has fueled debate over whether or not Super Bowl ads are really worth it after all. It's very difficult to get a clear answer. But more recently, a 2016 study in the Journal of Business Research by Sasha Rathel, Charles Taylor, and Stephen Hawk pointed out flaws in these previous studies and conducted a study of their own using a slightly different testing methodology. The main problem with the previous studies was in using ad likability to measure an ad's effectiveness. The researchers suggest that while ad likability may influence customer-based brand equity, a term that we'll define in a moment, additional factors beyond ad likability influence brand perception. For example, whether or not there was a strong match between the ad that was shown and the brand, and how the brand was positioned in the ad. Basically what they're saying is that it's very possible for someone to enjoy watching an ad because it's funny or attention-grabbing, but that doesn't necessarily change attitudes towards the brand and ultimately purchasing behavior. Therefore, measuring ad likability is not a great tool for solving this problem. Instead, the 2016 study looked at two new metrics: brand equity and customer equity. Brand equity is defined as being the thoughts, feelings, perceptions, images, and experiences about a brand, not about the ad itself. So where these other studies looked at perceptions of the ad, this study looked at the perceptions of the brand behind the ad. Customer equity is defined as being the sum of lifetime values of all customers, or the discounted value or present value of the projected net cash flows that a firm expects to receive from the customer over time. This is reflected and can be measured using the market capitalization of the company. In other words, for a Super Bowl ad to cause a company's stock price to rise, it must cause customers, or potential customers, to think, feel, and perceive the brand in a positive light. And while Super Bowl ads are certainly able to achieve this outcome, many do not because perhaps they are simply too generic, or they might use humor just for humor's sake, and don't make customers feel differently about the brand. Take the following ad for example. It scored high on the USA Today's likability score, but in my opinion doesn't do a great job at communicating brand values.
Mr. Peanut, he spent his life bringing people together. I know he'd be happy that we are all together now.
Yeah.
What is happening?
What is that? Is that a baby nut?
Just kidding. I'm back. Where's my monocle?
After watching the ad, my observation is that it's funny and memorable, but its message doesn't change how I think or feel about the brand. The humor doesn't support the unique selling proposition of the product, or bring attention to an experience or environment in which the product is likely to be used and remembered. The result of the study confirmed that Super Bowl ads that successfully change the consumer mindset by building positive brand associations lead to improved cash flows and ultimately an increase in stock prices. The study did not identify specific Super Bowl ad examples that met this criteria, but let's take a look at a few examples that I feel increase brand equity as defined by this study. Let's start with this Toyota ad.
I can't sit! There's no room! Come on without me! I got room. Hop in.
Okay.
Save yourselves.
So, this is Adam.
Thanks, boss!
Hold it off!
Critter's got an ugly mouth.
That's not its mouth.
Oh, I just had this washed.
You guys go! I can't fit!
Get in, Brian.
Thanks, Mom.
Hey.
Howdy. Again?
Go wherever they need you. The all-new Highlander. Toyota. Let's go places.
It uses a bit of humor, and it does a good job at holding the audience's attention, but it also communicates clearly the car's value proposition, that it has more space. The hook that makes this ad memorable and humorous has a clear connection with the brand, and I suspect this ad does a pretty good job at achieving brand equity. Here's another example.
Little Caesar's delivery. That's the best thing since sliced bread.
We got a problem. There's a new best thing.
New ideas. Go.
Travel size bread.
Sparkle bread.
Bread pets.
Dear Lord.
Run the numbers.
And the numbers.
Run them again.
Sliced bread is toast!
This is not happening. Everything is fine.
Little Caesar's delivery. Best thing since
Sliced bread. I know.
America's best value, now delivered.
Pizza, pizza.
The meat of this ad, the bit that's supposed to hold our attention and make us laugh, doesn't really deliver on the value proposition that Little Caesars now delivers. The best thing since sliced bread angle has been used many times before, so people probably would not associate it with Little Caesars. Also, besides the opening and closing clips, most of the commercial fails to demonstrate the product in an environment customers are likely to experience it. And for these reasons, I suspect this ad struggled to change people's attitude towards the brand, and therefore might have experienced a lower financial return as a result. Just my opinion. And here's another example.
What's that?
Reese's Take 5 bar. Chocolate, peanuts, caramel, peanut butter, pretzels.
Never heard of it.
Where have you been? Under a rock?
New to me.
What, were you born yesterday? Raised by wolves? Are you clueless? Head in the sand?
That's offensive, Trish. Yeah, Trish.
You from another planet?
Trish, none of us have heard of Take 5, so who looks stupid now?
Reese's Take 5, the best bar you've never heard of.
I think this ad does a pretty good job. It opens up with a strong visual cue of the product being consumed in an office environment. What I believe Reese's is trying to do is create a new association with their candy bar, demonstrating that it can be enjoyed in a work environment instead of at home or during Halloween, which is where many people likely associate it. The Take 5 messaging supports this as well. The rest of the ad uses humor, still located in an office, to strengthen the audience's association with this environment. I think this ad changed my personal thoughts and feelings toward the brand a bit, simply because it made me think about a product I've known my entire life in a slightly new way. And for that reason, I think the goal of increased brand equity is being achieved here. So the next time you watch a Super Bowl ad, assess whether or not you think it causes a customer to think, feel, and perceive the company itself in a positive light, or if you think it's just trying to be entertaining. And if you want to see an excellent example of humor being used in marketing, click here to check out our analysis on Dollar Shave Club. They're doing a great job of this. Thanks for watching.